The studio lights blazed down on the stage, cameras spinning, microphones ready, and the audience buzzing with excitement. President Duterte sat confidently, leaning back in his chair, a smirk playing on his face. Across from him, Manny Pacquiao entered quietly, his simple shirt and humble demeanor a stark contrast to the grandeur of the set. The crowd cheered, but Manny waved modestly, acknowledging their applause without seeking attention. The host introduced them, but before Manny could speak, Duterte leaned forward, eyes glinting with mischief. "So, Manny," he began, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "You've fought in the ring, but can you handle the real fight? Politics? I hear your education isn't, how do they say, top-notch." Laughter rippled through the audience. Manny smiled politely, nodding, but remained silent. Duterte wasn't done. "And tell me, how does a simple boxer like you think he can make laws for people smarter than him?" His words hung in the air, cutting through the studio with the weight of mockery. Some in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. Others glanced at their phones, already snapping clips of the unexpected tension. Manny's eyes stayed calm, focused, and unshaken. The audience started murmuring. They sensed the imbalance, the powerful trying to humiliate the humble. The host nervously tried to interject, but Duterte waved him off, confident that he was winning the moment. Yet Manny, despite the verbal assault, said nothing. He didn't raise his voice, didn't snap back, didn't falter. Then came the moment that would stop everyone in their tracks. The president leaned even closer, smirking, assuming he had the upper hand. And Manny, quietly, without anger, without sarcasm, opened his mouth and spoke. His words were calm, measured, and delivered with a quiet authority that no one in the studio expected. The audience leaned forward, phones poised, not wanting to miss a single syllable. The camera zoomed in, capturing every twitch of Duterte's smirk as it faltered. And in that moment, every viewer at home felt it. The tension, the courage, and the power of composure. What Manny said next made the entire nation stop and think. The studio lights seemed brighter now, almost harsh, as if spotlighting the tension growing between the two figures on stage. President Duterte leaned back in his chair, scanning Manny Pacquiao with an expression that was part amusement, part disbelief. "Come on, Manny," he said, voice dripping with mockery. "Tell us, how can someone with a simple background like yours think he belongs in politics? Are you sure you even understand the responsibilities?" Manny's calm gaze never wavered. He folded his hands on his lap, exuding a quiet confidence that unsettled Duterte more than any shouted rebuttal could have. The audience sensed it too. The laughter that had followed Duterte's remarks before had faded, replaced with murmurs of curiosity and surprise. People leaned closer to their phones, capturing the moment. Clips began circulating even as the live broadcast continued. "You see?" Duterte pressed on, leaning forward, voice rising slightly. "People like you think you can talk about law, economy, governance, but can you even handle a serious question without stumbling?" He smirked, expecting Manny to react angrily or fumble for words, but Manny remained composed. "Sir," he began politely, his tone steady and calm, "I may not have the same education as some, but I have worked my whole life to serve people. I know their struggles and I know the value of hard work." A ripple ran through the audience. A few gasps, a few whispers. This was not the reaction Duterte anticipated. He had expected anger, defensiveness, maybe even humiliation. Instead, Manny spoke with respect and clarity, standing tall even while seated. Duterte's eyebrows knitted. "Respect? You talk about respect?" He shot back. "But you're just a boxer. How do you think that makes you qualified to lead? People will laugh at you." His words were sharper now, aimed to provoke, to elicit a visible crack in Manny's composure. Manny didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled faintly, a calm that seemed to challenge Duterte's aggression. "Sometimes strength isn't measured by titles or position," he said. "It's measured by how you treat others and how you stay true to your values even when provoked." The studio audience shifted in their seats. Some were leaning in, captivated. Others were filming, knowing they were witnessing something extraordinary. Social media alerts pinged across the nation as viewers at home shared the live feed in clips, already labeling it as a moment of courage. Duterte's tone grew louder, his face showing a flash of frustration. "You think words like that will save you? You're in front of the nation, Manny. People are watching. Show them what you've got." Manny maintained his composure, his calm demeanor acting as a shield against the rising storm. He didn't shout, didn't insult back. He simply answered thoughtfully, point by point, showing respect even while under attack. It was a lesson in self-control that left many in the audience holding their breath. From the crowd, murmurs of admiration grew. Wow, he's handling this so well. Look at him, so calm, even with all that pressure. People began recording on their phones more deliberately, some raising them above their heads to ensure they captured every word. Duterte leaned back, realizing the room's energy had shifted. The laughter that once bolstered his confidence had evaporated. Viewers at home sensed it too. Clips of the encounter started trending within minutes. Comments flooded social media. Manny is not just a boxer, he's a teacher of dignity. Even the host, who had been nervously interjecting to keep the tension from exploding, looked impressed. "Manny, your composure is remarkable," he said, almost in awe. Meanwhile, viewers were drawn into the unfolding drama. Social media engagement lines flashed on the screen. Have you ever seen someone publicly humiliated and still stay calm? Comment below. Can also tell us in which country are you watching this from. We want to see our viewers around the world. Manny's quiet strength and unwavering respect under fire had turned what was meant to humiliate him into a powerful lesson. Duterte continued to speak, but the energy had shifted. He was no longer the center of control. The audience, both in the studio and online, was now watching Manny, hanging on his every word. As the segment went on, it became clear. This wasn't just another TV interview. It was a moment that would go down in history. A masterclass in dignity, composure, and courage in the face of deliberate provocation. Every time Duterte tried to regain control, Manny's calm replies reminded everyone that true power didn't come from insults or titles, but from self-respect and integrity. By the end of the segment, the stage had transformed. The man who came to humiliate had lost the subtle war of influence. The quiet boxer had quietly, firmly, and respectfully turned the situation on its head. The air in the studio had grown tense, almost electric. Cameras rolled, microphones captured every subtle sound, and the audience seemed frozen, waiting for the inevitable clash. President Duterte's smirk had vanished, replaced by a flash of frustration. Manny Pacquiao remained calm, composed, but the quiet in his eyes carried a weight no one could ignore. "You talk a lot about respect." "Manny," Duterte said, voice sharper now, "but words don't make a leader. People need strength, brains, and experience. You have none of that." He leaned forward, pointing his finger, trying to intimidate. "How can someone like you even think he can lead?" Manny's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice remained steady. "Strength isn't only about showing power or authority," he replied. "It's about serving people, listening to their needs, and acting with integrity. Experience is important, yes, but life itself is the greatest teacher. I've learned from every challenge I've faced, every fight I've won and lost. That's the experience I bring." The crowd was silent now. Some leaned forward in anticipation. Some held their phones, recording. Social media alerts pinged repeatedly as viewers across the country and around the world shared the clips. Comments flooded in. "This is incredible. He's not just a fighter, he's a role model." Duterte's face reddened. "So, you think your humility makes up for your lack of knowledge?" He snapped, raising his voice. "People need someone sharp, not someone polite and soft-spoken." Manny remained unshaken. "Politeness is not weakness," he said firmly. "And humility is not a flaw. If anything, it teaches us to listen, to understand, and to respect others. True leadership is not about belittling people to feel powerful. True leadership is about lifting people up." The audience murmured in agreement. Some clapped softly, careful not to interrupt the live broadcast, while others raised their phones higher, recording every moment. Social media began lighting up with hashtags when Manny calm respect over humiliation. Duterte's frustration escalated. "You think words like that will sway people?" he challenged. "I'm the president. People should listen to me, not some boxer trying to sound wise." Manny's eyes met Duterte's. There was no anger, only a calm intensity that seemed to penetrate the room. "Being president doesn't mean you always have the right to humiliate others," he said. "Position doesn't give anyone the right to treat people unfairly. Leadership is not about fear, it's about respect, honesty, and courage." The tension reached a peak. Cameras caught every subtle twitch, every facial expression. The audience felt it. The breaking point had arrived. The room was silent except for Manny's measured, unwavering voice. Even the host, who had been nervously guiding the conversation, stepped back, realizing this was no ordinary exchange. Duterte tried one final jab, louder this time. You're still just a boxer. How do you even know what's best for the nation? Manny leaned forward slightly, his calm demeanor now unmistakably powerful. I may have fought in the ring, he said slowly, but I fight for people every day. I fight for their dignity, their future, and their hope. That is how I know what is best. Not through mockery, but through service. A ripple of applause ran through the audience. Cameras captured it. Social media exploded. Every clip shared instantly went viral. Comments poured in. Manny just schooled the president without raising his voice. This is respect and courage in action. The studio energy had shifted completely. Duterte, who had come to dominate the conversation, was now on the defensive. Manny had stood his ground, refusing to be humiliated, refusing to lose composure, and refusing to allow his dignity to be questioned. If you were standing there as a bystander, would you step in or stay quiet? Type your answer in the comments. By the end of the segment, one thing was clear. Manny Pacquiao was not just a fighter in the ring, he was a fighter for respect, integrity, and justice. And in that tense, televised moment, he had proven that courage is not always loud. Sometimes it is measured, unwavering, and calm, yet more powerful than any raised voice or harsh insult. The cameras kept rolling. The audience sat stunned, and viewers at home knew they were witnessing history. This wasn't just a TV segment anymore. It was a lesson in dignity under pressure, a masterclass in handling humiliation with grace. The breaking point had arrived, and Manny had emerged victorious without throwing a single punch. The room was electric, yet silent in a way that made every word echo. Manny Pacquiao's calm, unwavering response had shifted the entire energy of the live broadcast. The audience, which had been leaning forward with curiosity, was now holding its collective breath, sensing something remarkable unfolding. Cameras continued rolling, capturing every subtle glance, every twitch of a hand, every pause that carried meaning. Among the crowd, a young teen squinted at the screen, recognition dawning. Wait, that's Manny Pacquiao, she whispered, nudging the person beside her. Heads turned, murmurs spread like wildfire. The realization rippled through the studio. The boxer, the national champion, the man who had fought in front of millions around the world was right there, facing the president, handling the verbal attacks with poise and humility. Duterte, oblivious to the sudden wave of recognition, leaned back smugly. He didn't yet realize the crowd's mood had shifted. You're quiet, Manny, he said, his voice trying to regain dominance. Do you always speak in riddles? He chuckled, hoping to provoke a reaction. Manny's response was measured. He didn't boast, didn't reference his fame, didn't let ego slip into the conversation. I speak with honesty, sir, he said. Words should carry meaning, not anger. His calm authority was magnetic, pulling the attention of everyone present, every viewer at home. Social media began to buzz even more intensely. Comments flooded in from across the country and around the world. Wait, that's Manny Pacquiao? He's handling Duterte like a true champion. I've never seen anyone do this before, such composure. Screenshots circulated, clips were clipped, and hashtags started trending. Manny calm. Respect over humiliation. Legend moves. Duterte, noticing the subtle change in audience reaction, frowned slightly. He tried another attempt to regain control. You may be famous in sports, Manny, he said sharply, but that doesn't mean you know what's right for the country. Don't confuse popularity with wisdom. Manny tilted his head slightly as if considering the statement carefully. Then calmly he responded, Fame is not what defines a person. What matters is how we use our abilities to serve others. Every fight I've faced, inside the ring or outside, has taught me to respect people, listen to them, and act with integrity. A wave of applause rose from the audience, soft but unmistakable. Even the studio staff exchanged looks, impressed by Manny's unwavering dignity. The young teen in the crowd was practically shaking with excitement, whispering, He's incredible. He's not just a boxer, he's a teacher. The energy in the room continued to shift. Bystanders, initially hesitant, now started voicing their support quietly. That's right. He's speaking truth, someone muttered. Another leaned forward, nodding vigorously. The recognition wasn't just about Manny's fame, it was about the courage, respect, and intelligence he displayed under pressure. Duterte tried to interject again, this time raising his voice, but the audience barely noticed. Their attention was fully on Manny, who had transformed a moment meant to humiliate him into a demonstration of humility, strength, and wisdom. The realization had spread. He wasn't just defending himself, he was teaching, inspiring and shifting the narrative. Manny's eyes scanned the crowd briefly, acknowledging the silent nods, the supportive glances, the respect forming in real time. Yet he still refused to boast, still refused to leverage his fame. Instead, he let his words do the work, letting respect and calmness speak louder than ego or force. Social media engagement skyrocketed. Viewers shared clips with captions like, "Manny Pacquiao shows the world what true dignity looks like." "The president may have power, but Manny has character." Comments poured in. "Who else is watching this live? Can you believe how composed he is? Where are you watching this from?" We're connecting fans and viewers worldwide. By the end of this segment, the atmosphere had changed completely. Manny had not only survived the verbal attacks, he had dominated them without aggression. The whispers of recognition had grown into a roar of respect, both in the studio and online. People weren't talking about Duterte's jabs anymore. They were talking about Manny's courage, composure, and unwavering integrity. What was meant to be an attempt to belittle a boxer had instead become a national lesson in humility, dignity, and strength. The crowd and viewers realized one undeniable truth: fame and power can intimidate, but character, patience, and courage earn lasting admiration. The studio felt charged, as if the very air had thickened with tension. President Duterte had tried every trick in his arsenal: sarcasm, mockery, personal jabs, but Manny Pacquiao remained unshaken. Calm, composed, and dignified, he had handled every insult with grace. Yet now something had shifted. Duterte had crossed a line. "You call yourself a leader," Duterte said, his voice louder, sharper, almost cracking with frustration. "But you're nothing more than a simple boxer playing at wisdom. Do you think people will take you seriously?" Manny paused, his eyes steady on the president. The audience held its breath. Cameras zoomed in on the man who had endured countless battles in the ring, yet was now facing a different kind of fight, one of words and reputation. His calm was not just composure, it was strength. "I may be a boxer," Manny said slowly, every word deliberate, "but I have fought for my country, for my people, and for what is right. That is more than a title, it is a responsibility, and respect. Respect is something that no position, no power, and no insult can take away from anyone who chooses to stand by it." A hush fell over the studio. Even the host, who had been nervously guiding the conversation, froze, sensing the gravity of the moment. Manny's words were not loud, but they carried weight, a quiet authority that made people sit up straighter, lean in closer, and listen with rapt attention. Duterte tried to interrupt, but Manny raised a hand slightly, signaling patience and control. "True leadership," he continued, "is not shown by belittling others. It is shown by lifting people up, by acknowledging their worth, and by treating them with dignity, whether they are famous or unknown, strong or weak." The audience erupted in soft applause. Phones rose, capturing the moment. Social media notifications began pinging even louder as viewers shared clips. Comments flooded in. Manny just shut him down with class. This is why he's not only a champion in boxing but in life. Duterte, visibly frustrated, leaned forward and scoffed. "You may have words, Manny, but people want results. You can talk all you want, but words alone won't win votes." Manny's expression didn't change. He leaned forward slightly, voice calm but firm. "Results are important," he said, "but the way we achieve them matters even more. We can accomplish great things, but if we do so by disrespecting others, we lose more than we gain. Power is meaningless without integrity." Whispers of admiration swept through the audience. Bystanders began speaking up quietly at first, then louder. "That's right," one said. "He's teaching something real here." Another nodded vigorously. This is how a leader should respond. The shift in energy was undeniable. Manny's words had not just defended his honor, they had inspired everyone listening. Even Duterte's smirk faltered. The force of the crowd's attention, combined with Manny's unwavering calm, left the president momentarily speechless. It was clear the moment had turned. The man who had intended to humiliate was now facing the undeniable respect the boxer commanded. Manny glanced around the studio, his humility still intact. Respect is earned, he said, not demanded. And courage is shown not by intimidation but by standing up for what is right, even when it's difficult. The applause grew louder. People in the studio, previously hesitant, now voiced their agreement. Social media erupted. Manny Stands Tall trended within minutes. Clips went viral with captions praising his dignity, courage, and poise under pressure. Comments poured in. Who else just got chills? Manny is a true leader. I comment your country. Are you watching Manny handle this with grace? For the first time, the studio energy had completely shifted. The verbal attacks meant to humiliate had backfired spectacularly. Manny had not only defended his dignity, but had also turned the moment into a lesson about respect, courage, and leadership. Duterte's confidence visibly waned. His smirk had disappeared, replaced by tension and uncertainty. Meanwhile, Manny remained calm, poised, and collected, a living demonstration that true strength isn't in domination or insult, but in measured, principled action. By the end of the segment, it was undeniable. Manny Pacquiao had turned an attempted humiliation into a public masterclass in courage, respect, and leadership. He had made his stand, and in doing so had captured the admiration of everyone in the room and millions watching around the world. The tension in the studio was palpable. President Duterte, once confident and commanding, now shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The energy had completely changed. What had started as an attempt to belittle Manny Pacquiao had transformed into a nationwide lesson in dignity, courage, and respect. But just as the audience absorbed the weight of Manny's words, the moment of revelation arrived. A co-host, previously in the background, leaned toward the cameras and whispered something that caught the attention of several crew members. Murmurs rippled through the studio. Wait, everyone look. That's Manny Pacquiao. The real Manny Pacquiao. The audience erupted in shock. Cameras zoomed in, capturing faces that now recognized the legendary boxer standing before them. Social media alerts went into overdrive. Comments, hashtags, and shares began flooding in simultaneously. OMG, it's actually Manny Pacquiao. He's standing up to the president and still staying humble. Manny calm. Respect over humiliation began trending worldwide. Duterte's face twitched slightly. For the first time, it seemed he realized who he was speaking to. But instead of acknowledging the boxer's fame, he tried to regain composure. Well, I suppose people know you, he said, attempting a light tone. But fame doesn't make you a leader. Manny smiled faintly, still humble. I don't need fame to lead with respect, he said. What matters is how we treat others, not how many people know our name. The revelation changed the dynamic entirely. The studio audience, which had been quiet but supportive, grew louder. Whispers of admiration turned into clear voices. That's Manny Pacquiao. He's been calm this whole time. This is unbelievable. Even crew members behind the cameras could not hide their astonishment. Social media erupted. Clips of the moment went viral instantly, as viewers recognized the boxer's calm, dignified handling of an attempted humiliation. Comments poured in. Manny could have boasted about his fame, but he stayed humble. True class. The president just realized he underestimated him. Duterte's attempt to regain control faltered. He tried to joke, trying to brush off the recognition as irrelevant. Well, he's famous, yes, but that doesn't mean he knows what's right for politics, he said, forcing a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. Manny, sensing the importance of the moment, addressed it directly. It's not about fame or position, sir, he said. What matters is how we treat each other. Humiliation, profiling, or mockery only harms people and divides communities. We should use our influence to lift people, not belittle them. The audience erupted again. Cameras caught every reaction. People nodding, leaning forward, some wiping tears from their eyes, moved by the boxer's humility and courage. The energy in the studio was electric, but this time, it was admiration and respect filling the space, not tension or fear. Even Duterte, though visibly unsettled, could not ignore the shift. He attempted one last defense, saying, "Well, I didn't mean any harm." But the words fell flat. Manny's calm authority and eloquence had already changed the narrative, both in the studio and across the nation. Social media engagement exploded. Viewers shared clips with captions, "Manny Pacquiao teaches the world about respect and courage. Humility over ego, Manny wins again." Comments poured in. Do you think the president should apologize after this? Comment below. Do you think people in power should be reminded of respect like this? Tell us what you think. The co-host tried to wrap the segment, but it was clear the show had become historic. The moment was bigger than any script or plan. It was a live demonstration of courage, humility, and integrity in the face of power and ridicule. By the end of the broadcast, one truth was undeniable. Manny Pacquiao had not only defended his dignity, he had educated the nation. He had revealed how composure, respect, and quiet strength could overpower arrogance and aggression. The reveal had not just exposed his fame, it had turned the tables, forcing everyone, even the most powerful figure in the room, to pause and recognize the power of humility. As cameras cut to commercial, viewers around the world were already sharing their reactions. Social media continued to explode. Hashtags trended internationally, and the studio remained abuzz with disbelief and admiration. Manny's message had reached millions. Leadership is defined not by position or fame, but by respect, courage, and integrity. Do you think the president or anyone in power should be reminded about humility like this? Share your opinion in the comments below. The segment ended, but the impact was only beginning. The world had seen a masterclass in calm courage, and Manny Pacquiao's quiet authority had made it clear. True power lies not in the insults you throw, but in the dignity with which you respond. By the time the broadcast ended, the world had already begun talking. Clips of Manny Pacquiao calmly confronting President Duterte, standing firm without raising his voice or losing his composure, spread like wildfire across social media. Within minutes, hashtags like Manny Calm, respect over humiliation, and legend moves began trending not just in the Philippines but globally. The footage was being shared, replayed, and dissected in countless posts, memes, and news articles. Viewers were captivated. Comments poured in from every corner of the world. This is how real leaders behave. Manny didn't just defend himself, he taught everyone a lesson in dignity. The calmest, most powerful response I've ever seen. It was clear that what had been intended as a humiliating encounter had backfired spectacularly, turning Manny into a viral symbol of courage, respect, and integrity. News outlets began running headlines the very next morning. Manny Pacquiao stuns nation with composure on live TV. Boxer silences president with words, not punches. Humility wins. Manny Pacquiao's viral moment captivates millions. Analysts and commentators praised his approach, highlighting the power of dignity under pressure. Across the internet, people shared their own reflections. How often had they faced insults or public humiliation, and how could Manny's response inspire them to act with calm strength? Even politicians and celebrities weighed in. Some praised Manny for his humility and eloquence. Others admitted begrudgingly that his approach had turned a potentially embarrassing moment for him into a masterclass in leadership. Yet through it all, Manny remained grounded. He didn't gloat, he didn't brag, and he didn't seek fame for the viral moment. Instead, he shared a simple but profound message with the world. No one should be judged by appearance, status, or titles. Respect is earned through action, humility, and integrity. Fans and ordinary viewers alike felt the power of those words. Clips of the moment were being used in classrooms, leadership workshops, and even sports training seminars. Manny's calm authority became a case study in handling confrontation with poise. Social media engagement skyrocketed as people around the world responded. If you believe in respect and equality, type respect in the comments. Share where you are watching this story from. We want to see how far Manny's message has traveled. Even the president faced backlash, as analysts and citizens discussed the implications of trying to humiliate someone publicly. While some attempted to defend the approach, most admitted that Manny's integrity and composure had completely overshadowed the intended humiliation. The narrative had shifted, and the world was taking notice. Courage, dignity, and respect always leave a lasting impact. Manny also posted a message on social media, a reflection on the entire experience. He wrote about the importance of staying calm under pressure, of standing firm in your values, and of never letting anger or provocation dictate your actions. The post went viral, shared millions of times within hours, sparking discussions, debates, and heartfelt messages from people inspired by his example. For viewers at home, the moment was unforgettable. Manny had shown that true power is not measured by loudness, authority, or public ridicule. It is measured by courage, calmness, and the ability to act with principle even when confronted with adversity. The viral footage became more than entertainment. It became a lesson in leadership, resilience, and respect. The segment closed with a lasting image. Manny Pacquiao, calm, dignified, and unshakable, standing in the studio as cameras captured his poise. His humility, his courage, and his ability to rise above insult resonated across the globe, leaving viewers inspired and moved. Millions watched, reflected, and shared the story, ensuring that Manny's message of respect and equality would reach far beyond the studio, far beyond the moment, and into hearts worldwide. If you believe in respect and equality, type respect in the comments. Manny Pacquiao had turned a moment meant for humiliation into a timeless lesson. Dignity and calm courage will always resonate louder than mockery, and respect, true respect, is a power no one can take away.